when you don't have the right data or you don't have the data, what do you do?
Thanks, Michele. Hi, everyone. Absolutely, you're right. I mean, the past year for the hospitality business has been absolutely unbelievable. We've been closed for 8 out of 12 months, so we've not had any trading. And when we have been trading, it's been a very uncertain environment. So what it has meant for us is that we had to be very agile around how we look at data, and we had to rewrite some of the business decision-making processes, and we had to rethink our business model. Our traditional way of looking at our performance against forecast and budget, which is something that any business would normally do on an ongoing basis, was not valid anymore. We had to set up our business from scratch and think about, well, what do you do when you don't have any history? Because the history is not valid. What do you do when your environment's changing every day and the rules are changing every day? Which meant that we had to review how we worked, review our measures and KPIs. So it was very difficult, but with a common goal, and I think that's the most important thing for us, for everyone being on board that we need to think differently, has meant that we've been able to get through it quite successfully. We need to think about tracking the business around profitability and looking at trends and daily trends, not looking at what happened last year or what did my budget or plan say. It's about how do I get the best out of what I've got.
So, and digital transformation is all about speed, being fast, being agile, but also when it comes to data, about integrity, about trust. So bringing those two things together and helping business people like Bas with fast data. Like he just said, he needs real-time insight into changes, and at the same time helping him that he has confidence in the accuracy of the data.
I think that speed and accuracy and reliability is the most important way of getting non-data or finance people on board, because they need to trust your decision and your insight when they don't know their environment and they don't recognize their environment. They rely on your instincts and your insight, and that needs to be reliable. And if you get that wrong, it's very clear very quickly.
The main thing I've learned from the pandemic is we are now going to be in a constant state of learning and a constant state of change. Something that Snowflake is now doing through our data cloud is the ability to give partners like Stonegate access to more data and real-time data, so they can really make those actions and decisions as they see fit.
What's Datalytyx' position on this? How do you get and succeed and excel in this new normal?
I've got a lot of history in building data warehouses, traditional data warehouses. Historically, because of the technology, have been quite rigid and inflexible. And so for us at Datalytyx, we're very much focused on obviously working with Snowflake and Talend, and we work with our clients to build modern data platforms that actually provide that agility. So for us, it's about, the whole story is about modernization in the cloud.
Top 3 challenges: effective product management, delivering quality products, and coordinating agile processes across data operations and other teams. And what you realize is those top 3 things, it's all about people, and it's all about process, and it's all about collaboration. How do you get everybody on the same page?
I think for us it was very important to make sure that we understand why we are pivoting. So if I think about where we started with the project, our intention was to quickly but surely try to migrate all to the data sets that we had into an internal data warehouse, create some different reporting around there, and start introducing some insight. We had to pivot from that because of the pandemic and the challenges that it raised for us. And I think once the business got engaged with that and we understood why we're doing it, then it was much easier to explain how we need to work. And I think this was what worked really well for us, working with Datalytyx and Talend as a team, because they were engaged with the same change as well and understood what it was happening in the market. That means it meant that we had to change the targets, if you like, and the goal. And that really, I think for me, that was the critical thing around coping, because if you're not aligned in that environment, you're not going to cope.
So data ops it's interesting because it's very much founded on the principle of DevOps. You know, in my mind, you know, the two are interchangeable. Probably as important, it's also a mindset as well in terms of how we do data engineering now. The problem in the past is because you're dealing with vast quantities of data, wide data sets, then you know the ability to actually control and manage how you develop and then how you move into testing and then how you actually eventually get into production. It can be a very long, drawn out process, you know, fraught with difficulties, especially if you've got multiple teams working on any specific initiatives, and that's where some of the difficulties can happen. I've seen it myself. I probably have the scars to prove it. When you start moving up and when you start discovering that you've got disparities in the code that have been developed by various ETL designers and developers, it's kind of I have nightmares. So what DataOps does, it effectively gets rid of a lot of those issues. It can truly get a data engineer into the world of continuous integration and continuous development. Again, we use a Snowflake capability in terms of zero copy clones. We can take the production data and effectively the engineers can test that data very, very quickly using the actual data itself, not something they've fabricated in their own spare time. The DataOps platform has some key advantages. It will enable developers to carry on at speed. It's a very agile process, but it's also very robust. It's got a lot of governance wrapped around it as well. So there's a lot of auditability in terms of what the developers have actually been doing.
What Mike said, him having nightmares or having had nightmares, I mean, that is ultimately why we should really apply DataOps, because then we can all sleep better. Initially, you might need to invest, some more overheads, as Tony said as well. You have more meetings. You need to coordinate, and because it's a collaboration approach. But once you've did that, you will never look back, because in essence, it's turning something which in the past has been more of a manual craft to something which is industrialized and with that robust. And there are a few things that play a very important role in that. And we mentioned it already, collaboration, self-service, for example. And we have a mantra, we say DataOps is data as a team sport. Yeah? Because it's not just, a few people, who have the right to touch the data, when the moon shines and, when the light is off and whatever. No, it is a collaborative approach. And it opens up, the productivity and the use of the data, of course.
Agile methodologies, whichever different flavor you care to use, it doesn't really matter. It's an ideal forum for bringing business and IT together. I found again in the past running delivery projects using traditional waterfall techniques, there's always almost a natural barrier between business and IT. Whereas business think, well, IT can just get on with it and they can manage a project using waterfall, and we don't need to have anything to do with it. But with an agile methodology, you start to get the business far more involved in what's happening within that delivery. And it not just around tracking business requirements through to fulfillment, but getting involved in all aspects of the delivery of the project itself, whether that's through the testing program or through making fine changes as you go. It's a much more appropriate methodology, not just for IT delivery nowadays, but for business engagement.
And it means when we talk the partnership with Datalytyx, for example, but also with Snowflake, it means having been there, which makes a difference for our customers. With Datalytyx, we have done dozens and dozens of projects. So we've gone to very good times, to hard times as well, which is important because, you're going to face problems, and then being able to reconcile them quickly is important. And with Snowflake, I mean, this is such an important partnership for us. We have had, in the meanwhile, more than 1,000 projects together with Snowflake. And that as well, always seeing it from the end customer, which I like to do from a partnership perspective, what is the value for the end customer? It is those many projects and the experience that we have through that, but it's also very important, the alignment that we have in those partnerships on various areas and roles and levels. So there's a deep partnership from our R&D folks. And there's alignment, of course, from the partner management side, but also from business management, from consulting, from pre-sales. So this alignment on many levels, that is what our customers really can benefit from, because this just creates, a vast amount of experience.
We're a data cloud. Okay, so we're a very modern platform to run your analytics, but we would be nowhere without our partnerships, without the innovation, without the tooling of our ecosystem, and so that's the first thing to say. And then I think, to me, what is good about a strong partnership with the likes of Talend is that we kind of have common goals. We want to innovate, but we also take ownership. And we own, we execute, and we review performance. And that's going back to the qualitative comment that Frank did made as well. So, and I think from a Stonegate perspective, they kind of look at all three of us through a different lens, right? So, so that hopefully, to me brings, about more knowledge sharing, more innovation to them. And in kind of this instance, we've kind of got a best of, what I would call a best of breed stack, which is, through the Mphasis Datalytyx partnership, is really giving a highly customizable solution to a very, a very cool, I would call it, approach to data in kind of what's been a really, tough time for the hospitality industry.
I mean, as a customer, I think that's exactly what I want to see. I want to see common goals. I want to see alignment and an ingrained way of working that is seamless. I want to see that the two partners or 2 or 3 partners, or however many number they are, that are clear about what the role is within that partnership and how they support each other. I think that's very important. And from the conversations we were having previous to sort of signing up to this partnership, that's something we were looking for. And what I kind of wanted from a personal, perspective for our business was having the flexibility, which actually the Talend and Snowflake partnership really provided, in terms of having the ability to, what I call, have a super highway of data that is for our main sort of data sources that are coming through, but allow us the flexibility to dabble and play around with other data sources and plug them in and out with simplicity and ease. So I think those are the things I think work for me in this partnership, and it's important in any partnership, really.
Yeah, I want to come back to something that Mike has said at the beginning when he said that, talked about the similarities between DevOps and DataOps, and he's absolutely right. It's about lean, agile, total quality management, all of that. But there's a difference as well, which is important for DataOps, I feel. The audience is really different. Yeah. In DevOps, you have software developers, they love technology. If they have to learn a new language, they will immediately jump on it. In the data domain, it's different, because we have people, rightly so, they don't know what ETL is, and we love it, but they don't know what it is, because they should just consume the data and pick them up in business-friendly applications that they can work with, because their focus is not, all this tech stuff. Their focus is doing things with the data. And that ties into these projects often being change management projects, which you have to be aware of. Yeah.
An example that we've had is in Stonegate is around the introduction of the concept of control tower and how that evolved over the course of the lockdown, effectively. And we started from scratch, and to deliver that change, we had to build incrementally. And it goes back to the agile piece, but what I really wanted from my team, and the challenge I set for them, is that, look, I really want to have a very basic sample of what I'm trying to achieve here within 2 weeks. And then go from there. That was a big shock for them. And then once we started building momentum, that's what became a lot easier. And I think that kind of continuous improvement is what I think is the biggest learning for us. And now today, if I think about how do we go about any other issues that we've got in the business, people are on board and they will deliver my MVP as soon as possible. And they know that it's going to change and evolve, and it's not going to be the final goal. So don't wait for it to be perfect. Just give me the basic solution first. I mean, I'm very lucky because we're in a business it is data led, so that we love data, and you know, every level of the business loves data. But I think for me, what's the misperception is that they think what we have available is limited to what they know, so they don't think beyond that and say, okay, what else is available that I don't know? And that was one of the reasons we actually kicked off this project, to say, look, you know what you know, but you don't know what else is available. So you know the business from your current lens of what you're looking at. But actually, if you add X, Y, and Z, you'll get a whole different view of what's going on around you. And I think that's one thing that I think we need to educate the business still, and then be working on that. And secondly, I think insight, the idea of insight, I think is not quite landed in a lot of the businesses. And I think people still see insight as reports, as fancy reports and dashboards. But actually, dashboards are not insights; they're just reports with charts and pictures. Insight is when it drives you to an action, and that action comes from telling you something you didn't know before, rather than here's a performance against last year. That's not really that exciting. So I think those are the two things I would say around data and insight that are still a myth, and people in the business need to get familiar with it.
I look forward to all these pubs opening up again.
Very good point, Frank.